All right, as promised, we're back with another segment with Paul Craig Roberts. This time to talk about a report from James O'Keefe of Veritas with a hidden microphone. A Pentagon branch chief in the Department of Defense is talking about how he detests Trump and how he and others in the DoD will do everything they can to block anything that he does. And also of concern is the fact that the Department of Defense is in charge of security for the president, including maintenance and security of Air Force One. Paul, how seriously should we take all this?
Well, I think it shows the rot. And the fact that this is in the Pentagon itself, which people tend to think of as the military and the patriotic element, the troops who fight for the country. And yet here we see officials. This is not just an underling. I mean, he's not an undersecretary or an assistant secretary or anything like that, but he's actually an official in charge of a department. And he sees his task as blocking Trump. So quite clearly, he doesn't believe in democracy.
And his name is Nicholas Turza, Turza.
Uh, I recall that's correct. And it's James O'Keefe, who was the founder of Project Veritas, who's known for going around and getting people to rat on themselves.
This is like a honey trap. If you see the report, it's this woman. It sounds like a young girl, a young woman who is, very naive and just asking all these innocent questions and drawing him out. It was really well done.
Yeah, it's well done. And the government's full of these people. Just the other day, O'Keefe had another one. I think was also a white male in the Pentagon, uh, explaining how he had hidden, uh, excuse me, the data, so Musk couldn't find it. And so you see, how can Trump really function when inside the bureaucracy there are all these people that are working against him? He doesn't even know who they are. The only reason we know any of them is James O'Keefe is somehow uh, finding them and getting the microphone in front of them, and they confess. But there have to be huge numbers of these people. And we see it also everywhere you look. There are 12 states, blue states, of course, that are suing the Trump administration about tariffs, claiming tariffs are harming them. Well, of course, the tariffs are a negotiating tool. They're on and off and on. I mean, uh, the tariffs really aren't even in place. Uh, and yet we've got 12 states trying to bring lawsuits. Well, what does this do? Well, this ties up considerable resources in the Department of Justice. You have to deal with the suits.
Yeah.
If you don't, they just rule against you. Um, we've got all kinds of other suits for damages and block this, block that. They're everywhere. And so you can very quickly find even a large department like the Department of Justice doesn't have the resources to deal with all the legal challenges that are presented. So you can see how determined the Democrats or the establishment are to prevent the presidency from functioning. That they're tying it up with everything they possibly can. And if they're not bringing lawsuits, they're doing it from inside their departments, like this man that O'Keefe reveals. So, um,
Yeah, Paul, we discussed before whether Trump could actually succeed. a second term, what he wants to do and what he wanted to do in his first term. Because of all this blockage, every aspect now, he's gotten a lot wiser since his first term when he was a babe in the woods. He didn't know who the players were, who was for him, who was against him, who was working surreptitiously against him. Now he's wised up to some extent, but as we're talking about right now, they're still all over the place. So considering that, the resistance so deeply entrenched, does he really have a chance to carry out his agenda?
I think not a not a great chance.
Really?
Yeah, it's not a great chance. It's and there's so much disinformation. They're trying to scare people. They're not going to get their Social Security checks.
Right.
They're trying to scare people that the deportations include Americans and fathers, and we now have a situation which has just come up where California uh, uh, decided to release a illegal uh,
Yeah.
serving 3 years of a 10-year service for killing a young American couple in an automobile accident when he was under the influence of alcohol. He also turns out he has previously been twice deported, convicted of burglary, convicted of beating women, convicted of auto theft. It's an amazing thing, and yet the blue state of California is turning him loose. Now he's an illegal
Yeah.
criminal convicted of all kinds of things, and they're going to let him off from manslaughter on 3 years. So ICE stepped in and put a detainer and said, no, we're taking him. And they're going to prosecute him for being illegal entry. And that carries a higher sentence than the one the Californians gave him for killing 2 people. So you see, even the Democrats are so anti-American that they're not willing to punish an illegal immigrant.
Well, how about the pilgrimage now to El Salvador to free a guy who apparently is an MS-13 gang member, bring him back to the U.S.
Yeah, yeah. This is a Democrat member of Congress.
And there's more going down too. Talk about scare tactics, Paul. Here in Pennsylvania, where I live, I just heard the other day a Democrat uh, saying that they may cancel the midterm elections. Trump may cancel them because things are not going his way. So he doesn't want any more Democrats to win primaries. I mean, and in California, I have some contacts there that tell me there are transgender people that are thinking of fleeing the country because they're going to be rounded up and deported. I mean, all kinds of scare tactics reinforced by media outlets and also social media crazies. And people are believing it. We tell a lie often enough, strongly enough, a lot of people believe it.
That's right. That's exactly right. And so he's, how the United States and the character of its people and what they know have been under assault for many decades. I think anybody under 50 probably doesn't have any real conception about what the United States was or is supposed to be.
Good point. Good point. Under 50. Yeah. Yeah.
They just don't know. They've never experienced the country that we had. And they have been born into a system called affirmative action, in which it's socially accepted for white heterosexual males to be second-class citizens. They're not protected by the 14th Amendment. They're not protected by the 1964 Civil Rights Act. They can be discriminated against in hiring, promotion, and in the military. And this has been the case decade after decade. And so a white heterosexual male is a person who can't get into an Ivy League university because there are quotas. And his scores aren't the determining factor, his race. So he can have high scores, but the wrong race. And his replacement is somebody with low scores and the right race. This has been going on for decades. And nothing's been done about it. The judiciary didn't do anything about it. The universities went along with it. The same thing has happened in corporations.
Yeah.
And then with Biden, it was rampant in the military. They actually had an official policy that all white, male, heterosexual, Gentile male promotions were on hold.
In
While
fact, Hegseth is trying to reverse all that. And in this report that we mentioned about from Project Veritas, the same guy who's talking about how he detests Trump was also really critical of Hegseth, that he's too young for the job, he doesn't know what he's doing, he's dangerous, blah, 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 blah. So within the Pentagon, there is a resistance to what the Hegseth changes that he's attempting to bring about. So I don't know how that's going to play out. What do you think?
Well, I think that the Secretary of Defense, there's so many people in the Pentagon and in the military, he can't know what anybody's doing. They don't, there's no way to know. How would he know that guy was there? The only reason he can know is that James O'Keefe smoked him out. You, who can you rely on? You got all these people, you can't rely on them.
And they're already trying to oust Hegseth on grounds that he's incompetent and dangerous because of those so-called leaks over that secure uh, channel that they were talking about defense items. So they're claiming, he's got to be ousted just because of that.
Yeah, the mistaken inclusion of the Jewish editor of the Atlantic.
Yeah, and who included him? How was that mistaken? We really don't know how that came about
Right.
or how that was arranged.
Probably a setup that they could use. And not that it mattered. I mean, it didn't matter. But it also shows you that the editor, Goldberg, isn't that his name, Goldberg?
Yeah.
It shows that the editor has no integrity because he should have known he wasn't supposed to be in that meeting, and he should have said, "There's a mistake. I'm not supposed to be here." Well, what did he do? Oh no. He said, "Oh, I got a chance now to harm him." And
Not that he was a Trump lover to begin with. So,
which is what he
what an
said.
opportunity, right?
But you see, he's now a hero for the liberals. This guy, devoid of integrity,
Yeah.
out to do in the president, and he's the hero. Well, when your opposition party thinks that way and is prepared to act that way, what can you do? You can't reach some sort of a coexistence. They're out to kill you. It's that simple. If you can't use violence against them, they're going to get you.
We know,
And this is what Americans don't understand. This fight between Trump and the establishment is an existential fight. one or the other is going to be destroyed.
I was just going to ask if they are able to block Trump, destroy what he wants to do, is this America's last chance to
Yeah,
return to what America used to be and should be?
yeah, it's the last chance. It's worse than that, in my opinion. I hope I'm wrong, but in my opinion, when the Democrats get back in, since they are an ideological party, in fact, they're already thinking about it. You go to some of the left-wing sites and see what they're saying they're going to do when they get back in, or just go see what Representative Rankin, the Democrat from Maryland, has said. He says, when we back in, we're not going to look kindly on those who cooperated with Trump. In other words, vengeance. I think they're going to turn the MAGA Americans into a terrorist group. They're going to be under constant surveillance, and they're going to be faced with increasing assaults of every kind, gun raids on their houses, whatever. And it's going to be um, a genocide. It doesn't have to be a genocide in the sense of they'll all be killed or something, but it'll be a genocide in the sense that they become some sort of a subclass. They don't have the same standing or rights. They're subject to all kinds of surveillance. So I think that that's a very highly likely outcome of this struggle. And I don't think the Republicans can win the struggle because I think the rhinos aren't really for Trump. They're for him only in the sense that it gave them the committee chairmanships and the subcommittee chairmanships. And it's much more rewarding to be the committee chairman than to be the ranking member. The committee chairman and the subcommittee chairman, they get to be the whores for the establishment. They benefit. They also are the funnels of money that goes into the other members. So they can control the members because the money comes to them and through them. And so the rhinos will support Trump for that reason. It benefits them. They get to be committee chairman, not ranking member. Committee chairman controls the agenda, controls the hearings, the witnesses. It has the power. So, but it doesn't mean that the rhinos agree with anything Trump's doing. And I have always thought, and I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am, that the rhinos are a part of the establishment. They're happy in it.
Yeah, yeah,
They know where they are, how it works. They know where their campaign contributions come from. They're serving those people to tear up everything, to rearrange. That's a threat to them. That all of their human capital, all their institutional connections, uh, this is what they've been building all their life. But they don't want all of this disrupted and changed. So it's not a it's not a happy situation uh, for Trump. And of course, they're not just after Trump's Secretary of Defense or after Musk.
yeah.
They're after everybody. They really are. They're after everybody. There'll be endless accusations. And since there's no real alternative print and TV and PR radio to what we have, that's all people will hear. And
Paul, Trump did get elected for a second term. So is that hope that America will not revert to what the Democrats want it to be, that there is hope that we're on the right track in the future since Trump was elected? Or is that subject to change in terms of the way the elections are carried out?
well, I think the Democrats have mastered the art of stealing elections, and they know the media will cover up for them, as it did in 2020. And it may be difficult to steal an election from Trump when you're running Kamala Harris. But it's much easier to steal Senate and House seats and governorships and state legislatures. It's very easy. I mean, look at how they stole everything from Kari Lake in Arizona.
Yeah. Yeah, so
It's,
that's the way you control it. Even if somebody like Trump gets in again, you mute him by controlling the Senate and the House, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah. Now, but still, you raise a good point, and there is hope in it, and we shouldn't discount it. Vance, the Vice President Vance, if he continues to be popular and he can be a successor. And if you look at the Democrats, they don't really have anybody, do they? I mean, they've got a gang of thugs and criminals and crazy people and sexually perverse and people who want open borders and want to teach your kids that they're in the wrong body. And I mean, this doesn't really appeal to just most ordinary people.
The polls are saying among Democrats, AOC is a front runner now
Well, I
for
would
the
never,
presidency.
I would never believe she won an election. Certainly not the next one. And but nevertheless, the Republicans will focus on the presidential election, and I don't think they have the capability of watching all the House and Senate races and governorships. And that's where all the Democrats' techniques can come into play. It's just too much to watch. And in blue jurisdictions, the Democrats have total control over the vote count.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about it. They can just say the vote's whatever they want it to be. And there's nothing can be done. So I think that if Americans understood that this is an existential fight, and if Trump loses, it means America's lost.
And Paul, a point we should make here, which we've made before, because we're so critical of the Democrats, the policies, it doesn't mean that we're all in blindly for Trump. It just means that compared to what we've been through with the Democrats, Trump is on the right track, or at least better than it had been before. And if the Democrats return to office with the same principles, with the same programs, then the country is lost. It's not to say that this is blind allegiance to Trump or anybody else. It's just common sense. You measure a presidency not by personality, but by the effects of a president's policies. And when you compare Trump's policies and its effects to Biden's and others, we're on a better track, I would say.
Yeah, and let's look at some of the principal points. We're going to protect our borders. We're not here to be overrun by millions of people every year.
No.
We're going to have a merit-based system. We're going to promote according to ability, capability, not according to race and sexual preference and gender, not according to DEI, but merit. That's so So what's wrong with these things? These are the basic American principles. And we're not going to use the public schools to indoctrinate your children that they're racist and born in the wrong body and all the rest. The people in Fairfax County, Virginia, are still trying to stop the early sexualization of their kids in the schools,
Right.
and they can't stop it. So, and this is the Trump administration. They can't stop it. So you have to feel helpless as a parent. And every day your kid's going off not to learn anything except what shouldn't be taught them at that age. So there's really no support for Democrats except among the recent educated classes that have been indoctrinated against their own country. That is the Democrat vote population.
Among the educated, which is becoming an oxymoron now.
But they're not educated. I don't know if you want to move here into the next thing or about the law and journalism schools.
That's what we're going to do. We'll wrap this one up for now. So, folks, stay tuned. And shortly, we'll be having another episode talking about how law and journalism schools now teach social justice and overturning our society over any kind of objectivity and common sense. So, stay tuned for that. For now, Paul, thanks again.
It's always a pleasure, Larry.